Okay, Bontemps, back to you.
I want to hear what's said in San Francisco at the Chase Center by the Golden State Warriors. I want to hear what Steve Kerr has to say. I want to hear what Chris Paul has to say. I want to hear what Steph Curry has to say. Because to me, there's only one answer for how the Golden State Warriors season should go, which would be Chris Paul should come off the bench and he should give them the plan B they've never had during the Steve Kerr era, where whenever Steph has left the court, including, by the way, when Kevin Durant was on the team, they've never been able to function as an offense. They've always looked disjointed. They've always looked messed up because, at least relative to how they normally are messed up, I should be clear, because the way they play with Steph is such a singular system that you can't really replicate. Whereas Chris Paul, as McMahon knows from covering him, as we all know from watching him for forever now, he's a walking offense by himself. And they, as both Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr talked about after this trade, hey, we've never been able to have a successful offense when Steph's off the court. Now we have Chris Paul. He's going to do that. So have him play 20 minutes a game, save his body for the playoffs, have him come off the bench. Well, Chris got asked about it, was like, what do you mean by come off the bench? Steve is...
Are you the coach? You coach the team?
Right, exactly. Steve Kerr has, artfully dodged questions about whether he's going to start or not. And by the way, the Warriors had a starting five last year that was, when healthy, by far the best five-man unit in the NBA.
Yeah, but what did that starting five do the year before that?
It was pretty good
won a championship
too. That's right.
Oh, okay. Certainly so maybe to break that up to protect a Hall of Fame ego.
Yes. So I would love to hear what everybody involved with the Warriors has to say about, and look, maybe Chris will come in and stand up there and say, hey, I've thought about it. I'm ready to come off the bench. It's all kumbaya here. Everything's going to be great. But I am very anxious to hear what everybody has to say there, because if they do try to jam him into the starting lineup somehow, I don't think that makes any sense other than, as McMahon correctly pointed out, just to massage our former podcast guest's ego and have him continue his consecutive start streak, I think, of every single game of his career, as we've talked about.
I'm certainly curious to hear what Draymond Green has to say, because that's the guy you're most likely to get the most honest answer from.
Well, he just gave an interview to Home where he, said he used to hate him on a scale of 1 to 10 and then 11, and now they're best buds.
Oh, but listen, Draymond,
I don't doubt that he's got his head wrapped around, hey, CP3 can come in and really help his team as a teammate, like all the, all the hard feelings from competing against him. Like, I'm not concerned about hard feelings from competing in the past. My concern is if CP3's thing is, I'm a starter, I'm only a starter, I'm too much of a legend to come off the bench, break up that starting five that's been so successful and figure it out. Listen, if that's the case, Draymond's got every right to say, bull crap, like this, what gives you the right? You've never
Draymond,
in a Golden State uniform. We've won championships around here. Honestly, it is on Chris Paul to fit in with the Warriors. I don't understand why the Warriors need to move everything around to fit him in.
They traded for him.
He's not perennial All-NBA Chris Paul anymore. He's still a very good player, but it's time for him to transition into being a complimentary player. Bust out the CP Sixth Man of the Year campaign. Raymond Ritter, listen, I know you've won a bunch of the Warriors PR staff. You guys win that award every year. I'm handing it to you on a silver platter. CP Sixth Man of the Year, baby. Start the campaign right now.
Well, and by the way, if you're the Warriors, this is a pretty easy argument to make to Chris Paul, which is, hey, look, man, we saved you from purgatory.
Yeah.
Like, you got dumped by the Phoenix Suns to the Washington Wizards, a team that's trying to lose, or if not trying to lose, they're not trying to win. They're clearly starting a rebuilding process. They had nothing going on there. Chris Paul, at his age 38, 39 season, was not going to want to spend a year with a team that's not actively trying to win a title. And the Warriors went and traded Jordan Poole, traded a first-round pick, and brought Chris Paul to their team to, again, as we all know, he has a chance to walk in and actively fix a problem they've had the entire time they've been one of the dominant teams of the league. Like, it's not like there's not a role for him. He could play a super important role for this team. But it's like, hey, man, come in and fill this role. And by the way, also, as an older player, let's manage your minutes. Yes. Let's have you ready for the playoffs. Let's keep you healthy. Like, this makes sense on every level, other than, is his ego and his status in the league going to accept the fact that he's now going to be a secondary player? That's the only question here. It's not fit. It's not all the rest of it makes all the sense in the world. So again, I'm very curious to see what everybody has to say on that front.
Secondarily, Klay Thompson potentially commenting on an extension, and potentially Steve Kerr commenting on an extension too. I tried to talk to him about it on the record during the Team USA stuff. He didn't really, sort of punted, but we'll see what Klay has to say.
And one point on that real quick. At the 2018-19 Media Day, third year Kevin Durant was there. I was there for it. It was before I came over here. Steve got up there and essentially said, this is our last dance, and pretty much told the world Kevin Kevin Durant's not going to resign here. We're going to have fun this year, and we'll see what happens next summer. But we're not worrying about Kevin's future. We're not worrying about any of this stuff. We're just going to play. And that's one of the things that I always think about going into media day, because like the reason we're thinking about all this stuff now is like a lot of the times the tenor of the season can't come out of what is said at these media day press conferences, because these guys have had weeks to think about what they're going to say. They know the questions are going to get asked, and these guys are not dumb. They've sat in front of microphones plenty of times. They want to make a certain point a certain way. They can go up there and say it. So to your point about Clay or Steve or this Chris Paul starting thing or all the other stuff we've talked about, everybody, it's going to be very hard for somebody to say, oh, I didn't mean to say that at media day, because you're not going to be surprised by all these topics are not exactly surprising to anybody. So let's see how all these guys handle this stuff and what comes of it.
Well, and with Chris Paul
McMahon.
so far, this last thing with Chris Paul so far, the whole thing has been like, I don't know, we haven't talked about it. We'll talk about it. And don't be surprised if he keeps on trying to punt on media day.
I agree. Chris Paul is an expert at pretending like he isn't one of the deepest thinkers in the NBA.
Chris Paul is
there a start? Is there a difference between starters and bench players? I don't know.
You don't start 6 players start the game. You only start 5.
No genius plays dumb as often as well as Chris Paul.